You're gonna fail. It's okay. To your knees, your skin bloody, fail. And that's okay, because you know what? You know down deep inside of all of you, that's how you learn. You need to be motivated by failure. How'd you learn how to walk? You crawled, then you fell down, busted your tooth. Got some blood in your mouth, get up and you walk.
You will fail at some point in your life. Accept it. You will lose. You will embarrass yourself. You will suck at something. If you don't fail, you're not even trying.
Failure is a part of the learning process, right? What's the risk of failure? What, you'll be embarrassed, or risk of failure? How do you distinguish failure from learning? In your whole life, failure implies that it stopped, that the game stops, right? If it's part of you're failing and then you learn, then that learning is part of the moving forward, right? So that is what the process is like. Fail, learn, move forward, and constantly do that because you're cutting edge. You're going where people haven't been before.
Success is merely the hangover of failure. And that failure is an essential ingredient in creating a learning atmosphere for you so that you can accrue those learnings, those small incremental steps of failure, and collect enough learning so that you can arrive at success, right? I think we're taught in the system that failure is something that you should be ashamed of. Failure is for the dumb kids because you get an F or you get a D, right? You're not competent. You didn't comply. You didn't create the evidence of your worthiness. Success doesn't look like an A+. It doesn't look like 110 in extra credit. And failure isn't as simple as an F. And it's not always, like failure could be very gray, right? And being able to discern what you might arrive at an event or in your life where you think that, wow, I've succeeded. And you're getting the affirmation from all these outside forces. But if it's not aligned authentically to who and what you are, it could very much feel like failure.
Failure is part of life. I mean, the difference for me, though, is I look at failure as a stepping stone to success. It's a speed bump. I know I'm going to fail, but it's not failure if you learn something. And so, gosh, I've made so many mistakes. I've screwed so many things up, but every time I do, it becomes a way for me to explain to someone else what it takes. It's like, here's what I've done. I think I have the ability to influence people because I talk about my failures. I talk about all the things that mess me up, but I show people that I didn't let it stop me, and you don't let it stop you. And I think that's really the secret in that area.
See, if you're playing it safe, you're not going to win. If you're playing it safe, like that old saying, you were taught when you're a little girl, better to be safe than sorry. Well, that's a bunch of crap. It's not better to be safe than sorry. It's by trying things that you figure out how far you can go. You got to get outside the box. Like it's reported, Edison tried 3,000 ways before he built the incandescent light. He said he didn't fail 3,000 times. He said there was 3,000 different steps to building a light bulb. Well, there's different steps to get to where you're going. And I really do treat winning and losing exactly the same. I do not let it upset me.
It wasn't as though in creating these companies that we thought that we would be successful. I thought that the most likely outcome was failure. But it was still worth doing, even though the odds of success were low.
If you constantly remind yourself, after every defeat, after every setback, every time you get knocked down, I've got a saying, if life knocks you down, try and land on your back, because if you can look up, you can get up. See, a lot of people, because of failure, they stop believing. Let me share something with you. You will fail your way to success. Yes. 8 out of 10 millionaires have been financially bankrupt. You will fail your way to success. It doesn't matter how many times you fail. It doesn't matter how many times people tell you that you can't do it. It doesn't matter if you don't have a dime in the bank. You will fail your way to success.
getting it wrong isn't that bad. That's the other thing. When we make mistakes, and we've made doozies like the Fire Phone and many other things that just didn't work out, we don't have enough time for me to list all of our failed experiments, but the big winners pay for thousands of failed experiments. So you try something like Prime, and it was very expensive at the beginning. It cost us a lot of money, because what happens when you offer a free all-you-can-eat buffet? Who shows up to the buffet first? The heavy eaters. It's scary. It's like, oh my God, did I really say as many prawns as you can eat? And so that is what happened. But surely we could see the trend lines. We could see that, you know, all kinds of customers were coming, and they appreciated that service.
Like if I'm into an idea, the idea of losing never enters my mind. See, I have worked with giants. I had the good fortune of working with Sir Edmund Hillary. He was the first man to stand on top of the world. And I worked with him on 3 different occasions. And the only difference in Ed Hillary and Bob Proctor is in his size. Now, he's gone now, but he was a big man. When he shook hands with me, his hand wrapped right around mine. I felt like a dwarf, you know. And in talking to him, like, it never entered his mind he wouldn't get to the top of the mountain. But he failed in 1951. He failed in 1952. It wasn't until 1953 that he got to the top of the mountain. Now, people had died for centuries trying to do that. But he said, I knew if I could see it in here, I could hold it out here. Stella Mann wrote that in a book. You can see it in your head, you can hold it in your hand. And that's right. And if you're not prepared to lose, you're never going to win, because you're always playing it safe. And there's no reward in that.
I like micro failure. I hate macro failure. Like, death of your business is bad. To me, you know what's funny? I'll use a boxing analogy. My favorite boxing, I watch a lot of boxing. I think boxing is a very interesting, and I'm super into mixed martial arts, but I grew up on boxing. I understand it better. And I like watching it because there's so many things that happen in boxing. First of all, what I love about boxing is there's nowhere to hide. You know, like, it's super interesting, right? There's nowhere to hide. Number 2, there's a scenario in boxing that I love the most. For some reason, there's nothing more interesting to me than watching somebody get knocked down in the first round and then go on to win the fight easily. It's an interesting psyche, right? And I like that, and this is what I'm thinking about it, which is like, here's what's bad in boxing and in business. Going into a fight, getting knocked the f*** out in the first round and losing the match. Bad. Getting knocked down and then having the adversity to readjust to what you got caught on and navigating it to easily win a fight is remarkable. That's how I think about entrepreneurship. The reason so many people struggle with entrepreneurship is you have micro failures almost daily, and they're very in your face. You can't hide. And I like that. I like failure because I think I deserve it. I hate when people don't respect the game. When I fail, it means I f***ed up. And I like that because I think people get audacious.
You don't make excuses for the failure, you grieve it. You feel the pain. You don't brush it off, you don't downplay it. You feel the pain and you don't rush to feel better. Now, listen, this is a principle of life I'm about to tell you. To get past it, you gotta go through it. That's true in so many areas, but it's particularly true with failure. To get past your failure, that failure in your life, you gotta go through it. You can't go around your failure, you can't go over your failure, you can't go under your failure, you can't ignore your failure. You need to grieve the failure. You need to feel the pain. Now, we don't like feeling bad, but grief is a good thing. Grief is the way we get through the failure, and grief is the way we learn the lessons. So often, we want to just, when we fail, we want to just forget it, push it aside, stuff our emotions, and then immediately go to the next thing. When you stuff your emotions, when you swallow your emotions, your stomach keeps score. It's kind of like, what if you took a can of Coke and you shook it up for a long time and then you put it in the freezer? what's going to happen to it? It's going to explode eventually. It's going to come out sideways. And this happens in your life when you don't deal with your emotions properly. This is why sometimes 6 months after failure, a marriage falls apart. Or 6 months after somebody gets laid off work, there's another problem. There's a physical health problem, things like this. Because you've shaken up the can and you've got all these emotions feeling inside of shame and regret and fear and insecurity and all the things that come with failure, and you're not dealing with them. And so you shake it up and you say, we're just going to put this in the refrigerator and try to forget about it, and we're going to freeze it, and it's going to explode, and it's going to come out sideways in an affair or in wrong behavior or an impulsivity or an addiction or all kinds of other things. I have seen this thousands of times in people's lives. You don't minimize it. You don't rush to feel better. To get past your failure, you've got to go through the failure.